All right, with Proverbs chapter 6, if you like lists, you're going to enjoy this. We're going to learn 6 things that God does not like. So these are things we could really consider as things to be careful of in our life. So let's jump in and learn more. So he says, My son, if thou be surety for thy friend, if thou hast stricken thy hand with a stranger, thou art snared with the words of thy mouth, thou art taken in the words of thy mouth. Do this now, my son, and deliver thyself. When thou art come into the hand of thy friend, go humble thyself and make sure thy friend. So saying if you've caused somebody else problem or trouble, you need to be humble and go make sure to right the wrong, to take care of and correct the problem that you've created, basically. Verse 4, Do not give sleep to thine eyes, nor slumber to thine eyelids. Deliver thyself as a roe from the hand of the hunter, and as a bird from the hand of the fowler. Go to the ant, thou sluggard, consider her ways, and be wise, which having no guide, overseer, or ruler, provideth her meat in the summer, and gathereth her food in the harvest. How long wilt thou sleep, O sluggard? When wilt thou arise out of thy sleep? I should use that one for my teenagers. That's a good one. Verse 10, Yet a little sleep, a little slumber, a little folding of the hands to sleep. So shall thy poverty come as one that traveleth, and thy want as an armed man. So if it's saying get up, get working, get doing things. Work in the time that you needed to work. If it's not time to work, then don't work. But if it's time to work, work. Get things done. Be productive with what your life is going on. And like he talks about in there, your poverty will come if you're not careful. If you just sit around and just let things happen, you're going to have problems. You need to be more proactive with things. Don't let it catch up to you and suddenly, oh crap, I'm out of money. Be planning, be prepared. Verse 12, A naughty person, a wicked man, walketh with a froward mouth, meaning, of course, perverse, false, bad mouth. Verse 13, He winketh with his eyes, he speaketh with his feet, he teacheth with his fingers. So he is not being congruent in what he is doing, and his actions, of course, speak louder than words, for sure. Verse 14, Frowardness is in his heart, he deviseth mischief continually, he soweth discord. Therefore shall his calamity come suddenly. Suddenly shall he be broken without remedy. So warning you again, don't deal with wicked people. Don't deal with people who are naughty, who are deceitful, who are perverse in their ways. Just avoid them. That's just what they want you to do here. So verse 16 now, These 6 things doth the Lord hate. Yea, 7 are an abomination unto him. So there's technically 7 things, it sounds like. There's a quote here from Figures of Speech used in the Bible. He says, This recalling of what has been said in order to correct it as by an afterthought, basically, is a literary device often used by Hebrew writers to add beauty and power to expressions and to convey the idea of completeness. So that whole idea of these are 6 things, yea, 7. So it sounds like 2 sayings. They're like correcting each other. This is a common Hebrew literary tool that they use in writing to show completeness. We've got it all. It's a complete list. So let's look at these 6 things that God hates. Verse 17, A proud look, a lying tongue, and hands that shed innocent blood. That makes sense. So people who are looking proud, looking amazing, trying to build themselves up, be careful. A lying tongue, if you lie to other people, be careful. You're not on the Lord's good side. And hands that shed innocent blood, definitely, if you look at the 10 Commandments, definitely is a problem. Verse 18, And heart that deviseth wicked imaginations, feet that be swift in running to mischief. Now, what could that mean? Well, Bruce R. McConkie commented on this verse, and he said, If we think evil thoughts, our tongues will utter unclean sayings. If our minds are centered on the carnality and evil of the world, then worldliness and unrighteousness will seem to us to be the normal way of life. If we ponder things related to sex immorality in our minds, we will soon think everybody is immoral and unclean, and it will break down the barrier between us and the world. And so with every other unwholesome, unclean, impure, and ungodly course. That was in a conference report in October of 1973 that he said that. So this goes back to the idea, what you think drives your behavior. So if you want to wonder why someone behaves the way they do, you need to start thinking about how are they thinking that is encouraging and allowing that behavior to happen. Because it's usually where it starts, is you're thinking and you're getting up even to your own identity of who you believe you are. Makes a big difference on those other beliefs and things as well. So, and that's what he's talking about here basically. If you are thinking about committing sin, then you're probably going to commit sin in real life. Not, that's just thoughts come before actions, basically. So be careful. Verse 19, a false witness that speaketh lies, and he that soweth discord among brethren. Very, very important thing to think about in there as well. So if you lie, if you sow discord among brethren, and that could basically mean contention. Do not mess with contention at all. Contention, we know from other scriptures, is bad. It is not of God. God does not want contention. So if you feel contention building, if you feel road rage building up or angriness at a family party or whatever, realize that is not coming from God. That is coming from Satan. He wants to encourage you to hate others. Okay? God does not want you to hate people. This is, if you think back to the Master Mahan principle, if you're not familiar with that, jump back to our videos in Genesis about Cain and the story of Cain and Abel and things, and learn the Master Mahan principle. Master Mahan principle is basically the great secret is how can I turn life into property? Sorry, I was about to say it the wrong way. And so we want to be careful with that. So hating other people is devaluing the life. Loving other people is improving and increasing the value of a life. So God wants us to love other people, increase the value of them. So if you ever find yourself devaluing another human being, you might want to watch out. You might be crossing some lines with God here, basically. Let's see. Verse 20, my son keepeth thy father's commandment, and forsake not the law of thy mother. So this is a father and son discussion, basically. But it's don't disobey your mom either. It's very important. Bind them continually upon thine heart and tie them about thy neck. So this is a really interesting point that is brought up here in this proverb, verse 21. This verse 21 goes back to the book of Deuteronomy, I believe around chapter 8, and I think it's in the footnotes too, that talks about this concept of we want to help you remember. So in the law of Moses, it says you should bind these continually. You should internalize and study the commandments so well that you know them inside. You know them by heart. That's important, to internalize them, to live with them, use them as a belief structure to help you in structuring your entire life with. And so they talk about binding them and tie them about thy neck. So in the law of Moses, it talks about binding them. So they have a leather strap, a little box with the just kind of shortened version of 10 Commandments on it that you'd strap on your forehead. They have the one that binds around your hand. So that's kind of what they're getting at here, basically, is following the law of Moses. Verse 22, or at least using some of those visualizations and analogies. Verse 22, when thou goest, it shall lead thee. When thou sleepest, it shall keep thee. And when thou awakest, it shall talk with thee. This is talking about keeping the commandments, following your mother and father. And I think that's not just physical mother and father, but spiritual mother and father as well. Very important. For the commandment is a lamp. This is verse 23. And the law is light, and reproofs of instruction are the way of life. So just remember, reproofs and instructions are the way of life. If you go off the path, someone's going to have to say, hey, you're going the wrong way, come back. Just because they're saying, hey, we think you need to change course and come back, doesn't mean they hate you. It actually means they love you. They're concerned. They want to help you come back to the truth. So very important. Think of feedback as a good thing, people showing love for you, not trying to hate you or hurt you. So verse 24, to keep thee from the evil woman, from the flattery of the tongue of a strange woman, lust not after her beauty in thine heart, neither let her take thee with her eyelids. For by means of a whorish woman is a man brought to a piece of bread, and the adulteress will hunt for the precious life. So very important point that he's bringing up here. While this is, of course, talking about dealing with a lustful woman or a whorish woman, a prostitute, someone who is devaluing their life and wants to devalue your life too, basically. So it's sad, but that's the mastermind principle. Heavenly Father does not want us to devalue our own life or anybody else's life. We want to build each other up, so you want to be careful. Now, verse 27, can a man take fire in his bosom and his clothes not be burned? Can one go upon hot coals and his feet not be burned? So this is a very important point to think about temptation, okay? In fact, in here, there's a great discussion about lust and chastity. Will and Ariel Durant have written, this is in their book, no man or woman, however brilliant or well-informed, can safely dismiss the wisdom of lessons learned in the laboratory of history. A youth boiling with hormones will wonder why he should not give full freedom to his sexual desires. But if he is unchecked by custom, morals, or laws, he may ruin his life before he understands that sex is a river of fire that must be banked and cooled by 100 restraints if it is not to consume in chaos both the individual and the group. So this, going back to these verses, can a man take fire in his bosom and his clothes not be burned? So basically, you can't have your cake and eat it too. You can't enjoy the emotions of desire and not end up ruining your life. Basically, it's just, if you succumb to those emotions, if you stir those emotions up, you're going to have problems. You're going to get burned. You can't pick up one end of the stick without picking up the other end. So there is a consequence to enjoying sexual immorality and sexual freedoms, as they would call them today, and things. You need to be careful. You need to realize that there's guidelines that God gives us for dealing with our emotions and our challenges, and we need to follow what he says. His commandments are there as a guardrail, if you will, to help us in understanding how to put things in proper place so that they function the right way. So here's the thing that they go on to with this, talking about this idea of you can't get into temptation without getting burned by it and having problems with it, basically. He says in verse 29, so he that goeth into his neighbor's wife, whosoever toucheth her shall not be innocent. Men do not despise a thief if he steal to satisfy his soul when he is hungry. But if he be found, he shall restore sevenfold. He shall give all the substance of his house. So this is saying, if somebody breaks into your house because they're about to die from starvation, yeah, okay, we might be a little more lenient with them, but they still have to restore to us sevenfold what they've taken. But here's the problem, verse 33, whoso committeth adultery with a woman lacketh understanding, and he that doeth it destroyeth his own soul. How do you restore dignity when it's been destroyed? You can't. That's why it's a problem. So we need to avoid it the first time, not have it be a problem. Verse 33, a wound and dishonor shall he get, and his reproach shall not be wiped away. For jealousy is the rage of a man. Therefore he will not spare the day in the day of vengeance. He will not regard any ransom, neither will he rest content, though thou givest many gifts. You can't repair the damage done by adultery and sexual immorality. It's done. It takes godlike power to restore that. And that's where the atonement comes in to help us out. But it's a big challenge, a big problem we have to work with. So we need to be really careful with those. So Proverbs 6 has a lot of great advice for us. And I hope you've enjoyed these videos. I look forward to reading your comments on what you think about these Proverbs and these lessons that we are learning as well. And share them with others as well. So you can say, hey, watch this. This might help you out. There's some great wisdom in here for us. So let's jump over to our next one as we continue to move forward. We'll see you then.